Hi everyone, Mark Henick here. I just wanted to take a brief minute to give you some reflections on this new podcast that I've launched with Morneau Shepell. The show is called Living Well, and the focus is on the many ways in which we've been impacted, our mental health and well-being has been impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. At least that's what we're focusing on this season. We've got a range of episodes planned for the season, and we've already released 3. The first one was with Stephen Liptrap, the CEO of Morneau Shepell, and their Vice President of Research and Analytics, Paula Allen. We really had a chance in that first episode to dig into the data that they've pulled in their mental health index at Morneau Shepell, to show what have been the impacts, at least so far, of the COVID-19 pandemic on our mental health and well-being. Now, there's a lot that remains to be seen, and there's some mixed data even that I've seen, so even I'm confused by it being in the mental health space. Will this be a wave that's going to continue, or as I've been calling it in the media, my fear of an echo pandemic? We really don't know, because we're still in the pandemic. So we're still in the active trauma of this new world, whatever this is, all these changes that we've experienced. So I think that'll be interesting to follow up on later. So make sure you check out episode 1 with Stephen Liptrap and Paula Allen. Now, we've also released a second episode almost immediately after that first one. And in that one, I talked to my old friends, my longtime friends, I should say, Dr. Patrick Smith and Peter Coleridge. They were both past national CEOs of the Canadian Mental Health Association. Peter went on to then hold a number of different roles. He held a number of different senior roles before that too, as Patrick did. But Peter was past CEO of Prostate Cancer Canada, and now Dr. Patrick Smith is the current CEO of the National Centre of Excellence on Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder. I wanted to talk to them, however, because they've also been in a long-term relationship. They've been married for a long time. So that episode 2 of Living Well, is focusing on the evolution of the Pride movement. I wanted to look back a little bit at June, this past Pride Month, and see how that was impacted by the pandemic, but then also the role that Pride plays, more generally speaking, in the mental health and well-being of the LGBTQ community. And more importantly, I think how that's changed over time, whether it's a party or a protest. And in reality, it's a mixture of both. It's a celebration, both a celebration for and a call for more freedom. So I really want you to check out those 2 episodes. Episode 1 with Stephen Liptrap and Paula Allen. Episode 2 with Dr. Patrick Smith and Peter Coleridge. And then last week, on Thursday, I released a really special episode with Marci Ien from CTV's The Social, and with David Simmonds from McKesson, a Fortune 500 company, a massive Fortune 500 company. I wanted to really talk to them about their experience of racism. Now, Marci Ien, of course, being a public-facing figure, even just when we launched the episode, I was reflecting on the very small taste of the racist vitriol, the trolls, that she experiences every day times 10 or more, that she has to live with. So she really shared incredibly vulnerably with me what that's been like for her. She's a human being, how exhausting that has been, and how she's needed to take time off. I told her, I had the opportunity to tell her, and I'd tell her again, how much I respect her and honor that decision to be able to unplug and to be able to take care of herself. I think that's both brave and incredibly smart, so I applaud Marci Ien for that. With David Simmonds, it was so interesting to hear his perspective as one of still a relatively small number of black senior executives, especially in such a large company as his, and the weight that carries. The Black North Initiative, which launched shortly after we launched the episode, has been calling for greater representation, fairer representation of people of color within senior executive positions and boards. So check out those 3 episodes. Now, we've got another episode coming too. I'm just going to keep you for one more second. Another episode coming this Thursday. We're going to start releasing every Thursday now. It's a continuation of that episode on the emotional impacts of racism. This time I get a little bit deeper into the clinical elements of it and the academic and research elements of it. I had on my friend Dr. Tanya Bibbs from the Erickson Institute in Chicago, Illinois, to explore the child development aspect of racism and anti-racism. How does racism develop in young kids? But then also, how can we help them as parents, as educators, as a community, to be exposed to multicultural environments and to break down or to learn anti-racism from a young age in the very same way that we learn and are surrounded by racist ideas and anti-race ideas. So on that episode, I wanted to unpack where racism comes from a developmental perspective, but then also I move on to Noi Quo. He's the head of Global Critical Incident Response for Morneau Shepell, and we talk about the trauma of racism, especially in light of George Floyd, especially in light of the incredible heartbreaking number of times we've heard this same story over and over again about people being murdered in the streets, about people dying needlessly and nobody being held to account for it, like as we see in the case of Breonna Taylor and so many others. So we get into, with Noi, the impact of trauma, the many layers of trauma, the intergenerational trauma that's still the legacy of slavery. We've seen that here in Canada with the residential school system that was here, the 60s scoop, and how that has traumatized not only people at the time, but generations since. So how we can unpack that further. 4 really incredible conversations. We only took small pieces of each of them. I had bigger conversations with all of these incredibly smart, talented, empathetic, interesting people, and we pulled out just little pieces of them, the most interesting pieces to share with you. So head over to livingwellpod.com. You can also go to wellcan.ca. Wellcan is the free resource of Morneau Shepell that's supporting the Living Well podcast. So head over to wellcan.ca as well and check out all the resources, assessments, information they have on there. But go to livingwellpod.com or Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever else you get your podcasts. Download, subscribe. Please rate the Living Well podcast. That's really important right at the front end here. We've got new episodes coming at you every single Thursday and a whole range of different topics that I think you're really going to enjoy. So thank you so much for your time. I just wanted to share these couple of reflections on you because it's been such a wild ride getting this podcast launched. I really do hope that you check it out, that you enjoy it, that you let me know what you think, and that you subscribe to the Living Well podcast. For Morneau Shepell, thanks so much. Bye-bye.